Don't buy one of those. YouTube, anyone who knows me knows that I like tools made in the U.S. They're better quality. They last longer. They do exactly what they're supposed to do. But I had a job on the truck behind me. I had to do some buffing. I hate buffing. I don't plan on doing any more buffing other than what I've got going on here, simply because I don't like it. But I'm not going to pay somebody to do something that I am capable of doing. So with that in mind, I bought a buffer, a very cheap buffer, with the thought of really not needing it. Again, if it lasted good, if it didn't, you know, oh well. I think it was $39 with some buffing pads and a backing pad and something like that. China-made junk. But I figured it would get the job done. Turns out it didn't at all. It wasn't long and the trigger went bad, so I thought, well, I ended up having to hot wire the trigger, or straight wire it. I just took the trigger out and just wired it together and finished the job, but it sucked. So I pulled the trigger apart and it came apart in I don't know how many pieces. And so I thought, well, man, this would be a great time to make a video about how to fix a trigger. Hopefully we can fix it. I don't know, it's got a lot of parts, but I think we can figure it out. Enjoy. First of all, we need to figure out how it went together. And I like to do detective work. I see grease. I see two pips. I don't know if you can see them in there or not. Two little black pips inside here. So I'm assuming one of these springs goes on one side and one goes on the other. Don't do what I did. When this thing came apart, one of the springs just flung across the garage somewhere, and I had to make one out of a clicker pin. I don't know if it's going to work. It's definitely better than not having a spring at all. Okay, that does not come apart. That's got two pips, one right here and one right here. Not really for sure what those do yet. I believe I will put together the parts that I know where they go. We may have to end up doing a little bit backtracking, but that'll clear the table. Now what I did was I looked at the parts, and you could see, you can sort of tell things if you'll just do some detective work. You can look at wear here and wear here. So that tells you which direction the parts go. Notice the top of this has absolutely no wear on it whatsoever. But the bottom, you can see wear. So we know pretty much for a fact the direction that those go. I'm not really 100% sure how they go, but I think with a little bit of detective work, we can figure this thing out. Now, this has a hole here and a hole here. And what this is a lug. Your wire will go in through here, and then coming from this direction, a screw will go in and tighten up on the wire. They go in just like so, and they'll hold themselves in there. So we'll put all four of these in, push them down into place. So when we put this trigger mechanism together, pointing like this, we know the wear is on the bottom and the wear of these are on the top. So we know these face towards the top of the trigger. Alright, that one's a little bit loose. I have to keep that in mind. Sorry if you can't hear me. There's cars going up and down the road. Alright. So what direction do you go? All of this flew apart. And I'm not 100% sure that I have all the parts. But this sort of, when I unwired the trigger and then took these two screws that hold the two pieces together, junk flew everywhere. So I'm not 100% sure how this goes. Let's see. Okay, that does not go that way. This right here is hitting that right there. So we know it doesn't go that way. And it's on both sides. So this would have to go, I'm going to assume, that way. Just like so. Or possibly that way right there looks a lot better. How these mesh together. So I'm going to assume it goes that way. Where did these come into place? I know you make contact right here. Okay, alright. Okay, I believe. Alright, see, we have a little, where's my screwdriver? We have a little nub right here, and I'm going to assume that this spring sets on top of that, just like so. So we need to figure out how to get that assembly inside this. So I'm going to set this back down, pull this back apart. Alright, now remember, when you're fooling with springs, when they come loose, they don't care where they go. So just keep that in mind. So my first attempt is just going to be using my fingers to put the edge of that spring up under that lip. And I'm sure this is going to take more than 1 or 2 attempts. And this video may end up being a little bit long, because I really want to get a finished product just to see if we can make this thing work at least long enough to finish my buffing job. I was able, like I said, to take the trigger out of the equation and straight wire it to get that panel done, but I still have more buffing I have to do. And there's a reason why you buff with a variable speed grinder. Don't fly out now. Whoop. You need to be able to control the speed on that buffer to keep from burning up your paint, one, but different buffing compounds need different speed in order to work right. Now, I said at the beginning of the video, I think I paid $39 for this variable speed buffer. A good American-made buffer would cost you in the, that goes that direction. Would cost you in the $150 to $200 range. And if it's something you do on a regular basis, it is well worth it. The spring actually bounced off the bill of my hat. Just about lost it. This is a little bit aggravating. It'd be more aggravating if I lose the spring. Alright, let's take this a little bit slower. All right. One is in there. Now I'm going to use, if you don't use these, I highly recommend, if you work with your hands at all, this is like an 11th finger. I buy these things by the 10 packs. They are very, very, very handy for basically anything that you do. I don't go to work without them. All right, we're going to do, I think they're called, if you want to find them, I believe they're called, obviously pocket screwdrivers, but I think the way that you would go about looking them up is promotional screwdrivers. I think if you look up promotional screwdrivers, you will find them. And guys, if you ever get used to using them, you'll wonder how in the world you ever made it without them. Did that one go in that easy? Surely not. Surely not. Look there, guys. But now, if you'll see, the spring is not setting completely on that nub. So we want to use our wonderful 11th finger and just sort of manipulate that a little bit. Possibly just slide it farther in there. Might end up actually being easier to just pull it back out. If you get it in once, you can get it in twice. That's my philosophy. Oh, I see what happened. I see what happened. The spring was actually sitting on it like so. That won't work. Let's see here. Try this again. I had no idea that this Chinese made piece of junk would have so many moving parts just for a simple trigger. No idea. I had parts fly all over the place. Parts fly all over the place. Luckily, the garage was unusually clean, and I believe after about 20 minutes of looking, I believe I got all the parts. We'll find out. We'll find out here shortly. Put this thing in upside down. I think we might have it this time. There we go. All right. See, it is in there. Spring sitting on the nub, slid all the way back, squared up. All right. I hear my pops pulling in on his motorcycle. So let's pause this just a minute.